Chronicles TV on air. We are now live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the previous episode, we completed part 1 of the trial. Today's episode, we're going to go into part 2. If you have today's episode, make sure that like button to support this great pitch to the channel. Mr. Naruhodo, what on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My amazing hypothesis, you've been picking holes in it from the start. Sorry about that. What were you doing? But you promised me. You said you proved that dreaded explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you keep my precious adventure from falling into anyone else's hand. But all you've done so far is try to undermine me. Yes, I did make you a promise. You're right. I said that I believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? But if I just run through some equations... Yes, you see, it's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? Oh no! You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster, not just a scientist, but as a human being. Well, that might be a little over the top. And while we're on the subject, what about Barak? Is he being awful? Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? He's a disaster. Not just a prosecutor, but as a human being. Oh, but no, wait. He's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as a Homo sapien anymore. Glad that's cleared up. Can I double check something with you? Yes, what? The machine and demonstration you prepared, they were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume. There was no trickery involved? I drew the plans for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief the science's only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet. But please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it. Alright, Professor. I understand. And here we go. We're going back in again. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor hypothesis is sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. A practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor as the great exhibition, is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? The question is, who is the murderer? That's what we want to know. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of the court. Counsel for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify? The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord. So, Lord Von Zykes, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration of the day in question with their own eyes? Indeed, they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. Oh, please don't tell me. So the testimony we're about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect. A detective of all people. Please don't tell me it's who I think it is. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged, though it ended in tragedy. The demonstration of the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed the act of murder is the only other individual to have be present at the stage of the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution position is clear. So bring forth your witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity is to the incident of the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. Who the heck are you guys? Gina! I knew she'd be here. Witnesses, state your name and occupation for the court to hear. My name is Balthasar Loon. I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in the vicinity of the experimental stage. My name is Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund Arnstein. Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund Arnstein. Alrighty then. I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from the home in Bohemia. Boy or girl? That's all I want to know.
I'm very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective, even Erlach Sholmes agree. I was on security duty at the exhibition, and I got to go up on one of them balloons. It was amazing.
Gina? Again? But she did mention she's seen the disaster from up in the balloon actually, didn't she? And she's clearly loved every minute of it. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experiment stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in such balloons at the time and when they saw events unfold the skies above. You make it sound like they were clouds. It was only an altitude, circa 60 feet. I don't know what voice I'm giving.
Well, yeah, I can't see nothing and you fly too high, can ya?
60 feet. About 80 meters. 18 meters then. Thank you, your introductions. Now you will give your formal testimonies for the court. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you who had vantage points above the stage. The view from 60 feet above. It was an incident terrible. I'm only grateful that my balloons were not damaged.
There's this huge bang from the stage, and then the next second another bang in the sky up besides us. And from amid the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere.
The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower.
I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into that tower.
A most extraordinary collective account, I must say. Could I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I have not heard in any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions? More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as powerful was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called birdcage that contained the victim disappeared from stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witness. The birdcage appeared to have sided the explosion, subsequently plummeted down the crystal tower.
I was very surprised. Suddenly a cage appeared before my eyes. There was a person inside. The blast was so high, but I didn't want anything miss a scene, so I kept my eyes wide. I still have lots of money.
Precisely. Who is the curious infant? I'm told he's a young, noble Bohemian royalty. Apparently he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the great exhibition.
Yeah, I am here in London on sightseeing trip with my elementary school.
We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that?
When I remove my mask, this I look like.
Oh yes, I see. Delightful face, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody says so.
Great disguise then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the fact of the court. Namely, despite an ending in the explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. Furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the crystal tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused, who was Mr. Osman on stage, could possibly have committed the murder. Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution views on the matter are quite clear. So, defense cross-examination now, please. Yes, my lord. Okay, the view from 60 feet above. It was an incident terrible. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There's this huge bang from the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky behind us. And from amidst he spoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. Oh, crud, I did not meant that. So you're saying that you witnessed the actual moment the instantaneous kinesis took place?
During the stay in London, I have seen many extraordinary things. The great exhibition itself, the instantaneous kinesis, big explosions, the British corals, and strange creatures.
Sorry? Strange creatures?
Yeah, you, an unusual creature from the east.
Racist. Oh yes, but I see princesses wearing masks every day on the week. Did you also see the moment the cage materialized, Mr. Loon? No, I did not see the explosion myself, however. The cage fell from the sky like a stone. It crashed from the crystal tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it and it crashed into the tower.
Hold it!
There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand? See, all 3 of them made Bellissimium Bambini. They are all very popular, signor. Some people will pay £10 for a ride. 10 pounds? That's more than an annual stipend.
20 pounds a month, that is my pocket money.
Royals have all the luck.
I got it there for free, I did. Paid the old I work for Her Majesty's police card, you know?
Detectives have all the luck. If they're so popular, why would you only operate such a small number of balloons, though? Because if I have too many in the sky, they could crash into each other. The operators for the balloons decide by lots, which each operator manning a particular area. See, on the above public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios, they hate me. Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangements for the balloon rods at the exhibition. Perhaps we could hear more about what you actually witnessed in the incident.
Right, I can fill you in there, my lord. Hold it!
So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air?
Yep, isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Otto, being a lawyer is a mug game. You should join the force and we can go flying together.
You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think?
Everything. We saw everything because we were up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing in the cage, ain't that dodgy? Professor pulling all them levers. And that's what happened. That's when that was the massive bang in the cage disappeared, just like that.
You are describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by electricity, I believe.
I didn't know what that make of it, but then there was another bang right in me ear. I look around and there was a huge ray fireball right next to us in the sky. And there was nothing there before.
Hold it! Excuse me. Master Gotts, is your memory of the day differ?
Me teacher at elementary school said that when you meet something for the first time, you should always use your full name.
Ah, yes. What was it again?
Wilhelm Gotts.
Oh, I'm not saying that. Just the 4 names, then. The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrange's last remark, perhaps?
Oi, get it right, Otto. It's Inspector Lestrade.
Why does everyone have a problem with how I address him at the moment?
That is not what I saw.
Oh?
Yeah, there was a second explosion and it was right beside our balloons. That is true. But I'm sure Which is what I said, ain't it? 1 minute there was nothing, then the next a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable.
Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy? He's making a killer.
Just before the second explosion happened next to ours, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky.
A green balloon.
You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it, and you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. I testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You cannot say it's a lie. It's not allowed. Playing the bleeding royalty card, are you? Typical.
Says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your formal testimony in the interest of the cordial national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia.
It was not the sky exploded. It was a green balloon. That's what's next to it. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I think I have the thing that's for it. I think we have the thing that was for it. Hold up.
This?
Objection!
Nope. We have the thing, don't we? It's made of rubber, isn't it?
Not that.
It looks like a layer of thick canvas from thick rubber lining the swords. I've never seen anything like it before, but a polyglot method, you might deduce it was a raincoat worn by someone who really but didn't want it. Charring, blah blah blah. Well, it's this thing we have.
Hold it!
A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that?
Of course I'm sure. I'm a proud Bohemian Prince. All the questions are making me boring.
I think you mean bored.
English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior.
Ragazzo, it is very wrong to lie.
Lie?
Flying balloons never explode. For the same reason the planets never explode. It's logical. Please tell me that doesn't mean logical.
If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia.
What?
I will have the army come and shoot all you stupid balloons out of the sky, all of them.
Alrighty then. Here you are, your highness.
If only all international incidents were so easily resolved.
Now that peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment that the cage materialized, Mr. Loon? No, I did not see the explosion myself, however. The cage fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower. Did you see the actual happen? No, in reality I did not. I saw after it hit the tower. There was a grand confusion around the stage. I ran to see what happened. I was terrorized for the idea of one of my balloons had crashed. I suppose they are his livelihood. What? When I look up at the sky, all my precious balloons were still here.
I saw it though. I saw it slamming over the tower. After all, I'm a detective now.
Didn't you say, Inspector? Then tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade.
That's what I like to hear.
She's happy.
Hold it!
What? Was it you who gave the order to keep the people away?
Use your head, Otto. How would I have been me? I was up in the balloon, weren't I?
Right.
So, cause I weren't available, it was the boss who had to leg me over there. He was getting shoved and kicked all over the panic inspectors as he tried to seal off the scene. As it was a real sight to behold, I can tell you, amazing. Poor Inspector Gregson. So anyway, I couldn't see the cage that well cause of all the smoke. And I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared out of me wits.
Keep it together, Inspector. The prosecution really is asserting the demonstration was genuine. But what if it was actually some kind of switch around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. The two explosions would have thrown everyone watching into panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. I have the freaking thing, but we can't find the right answer to it.
Because we have the thing that caused the thing.
How many balloons did they say? There's this huge bang in the sky, and the next second, another bang in the sky besides us. It was not the sky that exploded, it was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time. And there's this huge bang for the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky besides us.
Objection!
I had the right idea, but wrong person. Mr. Loon, in your testimony, you said that all three of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible. I wonder if you might know what this is? Ah, I think it may be. See, part of my balloon, a burnt piece of the fabric of the envelope. Sorry, the envelope. Pardon, that is the large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with the hot air. That is made from very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip it when you are in the sky. Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near the experimentation stage. In other words, as a Master God testified, a green balloon did indeed explode today. If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Loon, then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence. Oh, there goes the kids' balloons.
Objection!
The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage. The point of the materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon, causing the balloon to explode. Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it changes nothing about the permanent facts. Hold it! This is I cannot accept. Why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting that I'm a liar? The person's died in a balloon incident. There is no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victim was the sole fatality that day. That's right, and I prove it. Balthazar Loon is not a liar. There is no such balloon in the sky. It's not plausible. You're saying it's impossible? Why? The court is more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day. Aye.
Objection!
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about the other balloon until now, my lord. The defense calls for a further testimony from Mr. Loon. I concur. There is clear more to the truth than meets the eye. Imperative that we clear up the issue that this phantom balloon a feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you were operating at the exhibition. Ah, grazie, my lord. I thought we were only talking about him, Mr. Loon's balloons. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe!
But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt old bit old cloth was found at the scene, can you? The coppers at the Scotland Yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage.
The stupid old ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway. So your assertion is the balloon that this child saw was not belonging to you? See, whatever. Spanish. If he even saw the balloon in the first place, I do not like the sound of it. It's a very bad for business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia.
If you attack us, we will fight back. It will be war. All out war. and he's still paying the good man for the balloons. That was popped.
What happened to all that war?
Mr. Loon certainly doesn't appear to be lying, but that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and evidence are contradictory here.
If the defense is unable to find fault with the witness's statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend.
The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes.
Counsel, you may now cross-examine the witnesses.
What do we got? As I said, Balthasar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe. It would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Loon, tell me, what is that keeps these balloons in the sky?
Are you an idiota?
Sorry?
That is like asking, why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright. And a balloon flies because it flies. What else?
That must be Italian for I don't know.
There are 2 types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air, helium.
See, and my balloons are filled with magic gas, I believe.
Hydrogen, lighter than air, but highly explosive.
Good lord! I do not permit smoking the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic ghost does not like fire.
Even a small spark of static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode.
What is the matter, you senor? All that comes out of your mouth, explosion, explosion! I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have me, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons exploded that day, I am completely sure. And if you still say it was happened, you must show us me proof.
Alright, so Mr. Loon had 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded? You can't get away with the fact a burn-out bit of cloth was found in the scene, can you? The carpenters at the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown in the explosion on the stage. This is stupid ragazzo. The mistake balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway.
But what was the green part then?
The only thing that we have proved that shows as that inconsistency is this.
Objection!
Okay, never mind. Because in the diagram it shows us 2. That's all it is.
Hold it!
You mean the caller is wrong?
See, senor, I do not have green balloons in my warehouse.
And yet, a piece of green cloth was found at the scene, and it's unmistakably from a balloon.
Well, I do not know how that can be.
For the sake of argument, let's say that a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question. Why not? There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date, unfortunately, as I'm sure you agreed. You believe it may have been some earlier balloon incident that predates the exhibition?
See, whatever senor says, it is from one of my balloons. Clearly this little ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about...
Excuse me! Is something wrong, Master Gotts?
It's Master Wilhelm Gotts, your signet.
I'm not reading that. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. I saw a green balloon there. I swear on all Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. If you do not have ragazzo, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh?
Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments.
Evidence. What is evidence?
To give a simple example, young man, a photograph, for instance,
Some tangible proof of what you claim?
Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here.
Good gracious. What?
I had not been up in the balloon for a while, so I was very excited. Take a look, lots of photographs of the Crystal Tower of the Bohemian exhibit of the Siege of London of the hot air cellar the balloon.
And the instantaneous kinesis experiment, did you take picture of that?
Yeah, found picture.
Really? You take one.
But all I wanted was a ride in the balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments.
Never mind that. Can you show us the photograph?
Of course. See, you will see. You will see that I'm not lying. That I did see green balloon.
It's not color-coded. Witness?
Well, I see you're all too shocked to speak.
Yes, I think shock is indeed the word, young man.
Ja, perhaps you cannot see its green balloon from this photograph, but that is not my fault. That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera. Wow.
That is one very bohemian sounding cry. Very well, the court will accept this photograph as evidence.
It's not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera.
Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take the photograph?
Well, it was on the day of the big explosion.
You don't say.
When I pressed the shutter release, there was a very loud bang, and a hot wind rushed over my face.
That means this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred.
Well, if you ask me, that black and white photograph changes nothing. I could not give them flying fig.
A lovely language you picked up. Okay, I think we need to double check on the thing that we got. Doesn't seem quite add up. The young bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon, or third. But Mr. Loon's vocabulary, it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Okay, let's see the thing. He said that's green. And he said there's like a pattern to it. Oh, hey, get back! All three of them balloons were carrying passengers. They fell to the explosion of catastrophe. The supervisor said, my balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes. He said zigzag. He said zigzag. That's the inconsistency. It may not show the color, but there's no zigzag whatsoever. Hold it! What? I'm done with you. I'm done with you. The inconsistency said that there was a freaking red and blue zigzag. There's no zigzag right there, you dummy. Where's the zigzag part, you dummy? I see nothing. Care to explain why there's no zigzag? I swear to God, what happened here? What is this beam? That's going straight up. The copies of the art reckon it was probably some debris thrown in the explosion on the stage. Copies of the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion at the stage.
Objection!
Nope. Do I have to do this dumb game again? Also said the balloon is no lie. Every balloon has landed safely. All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in explosion, what a catastrophe. But you can't get away from the fact that Burnham was found the scene.
I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues? Nah, I'm not into picking stuff out the ground for me. Always works out way better diving into people's pockets instead. So much for the new career path. Mind you, the boss was his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Things his toe, the cage went crashing into the crystal tower, didn't it? So that's where the most investigating was going on. Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence. No, listen to you. You stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you hear the best investigator in the world.
Pardon?
Well, you ain't got a badge, have ya? Like this one. I could arrest ya with this if I wanted to.
I wouldn't put it past her.
I come to think of it, there was talk of some scorching in the ground meeting we had with the very investigation.
There were considerable damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there?
Yeah, some of the cubs was what watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the old contraption didn't keel over, eh?
I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions.
Like me swiping all them fish and chips, eh?
The man's sole pleasure.
None of this matters. That scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente.
We all have the freaking thing. We have a photographic proof for a reason that we're supposed to press!
Well, Leslie was riding the balloon. It shows another balloon that he claims was green exploded the moment after he took the shot. Where's the red and green? I'm just gonna play dumb. Oh, as I thought. I was about to say that better not be dumb with that statement. Because I already ran out of my guesses as it is. He said red and green, but we found a green. He said red and blue striped. We found a green balloon. She said something explode. We have the thing that shows. Hold it! So I don't know what we're getting at. You couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe?
Senor, I might not notice if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing. What? What are you talking about? 3 of those balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grand and expensive?
I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons. It would appear no mistake has been made then.
Surely Miss Lestrade could have been sent for a menial task. What? Me? I'll tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it as said and could have gotten himself in that case. Ah!
All the 3 balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground, it's in this explosion. What a catastrophe. But you can't get away with the fact that burned up bit of cloth was found on the scene, can you? The coppers of the reckoning was probably some debris thrown from the explosion at the stage. Oh, hold up. Maybe I got the idea backwards. The debris they're talking about.
Objection!
Okay, never mind. I gave up. I gave up. What am I guessing here? Coppers of the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage. The stupid Ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway. The coppers of the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown in the explosion, but you can't get away from the fact that burned on beetle cloth found in the scene, can you? All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground, the explosion was a catastrophe. Passengers is the contradict?
Objection!
Oh my god! Unfortunately, the photograph Mr. Goss took can't tell us the color of the balloon, but it can tell us something else. Something crucially important. The passengers. It shows that the picture balloon wasn't carrying any passengers.
My goodness, you're right. But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense otherwise. See, there are pleasure for the view of my balloons, whatever. Which tells us the picture balloons isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon disguised above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon. I know nothing. Niente, I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine. It's full of hot air.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Loon's patch without him realizing.
See, the competition is trying to steal my profits. I did not notice because of the experimental that went wrong on the stage.
This fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Osman was beamed from the stage below.
Right, so then scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks. They didn't come from the stage at all. It was bits of the balloon raining down. Because no one was in it, it didn't get no attention. A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers, silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
The photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly has nothing to do with the case. Irrelevance doesn't elude me, I must say. The court has sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded.
Really? Have we really got to that truth yet?
No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jury's minds are made up, and not in our favor. What else can our photograph tells us? Is there something we can learn from this?
Objection!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait! Please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gods may well be hiding one more vital clue.
A vital clue.
Objection!
We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? We can reasonably assume that picture balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was not my fault.
Evidently, because the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly explosively ignited. No, that's not what happened.
What?
It would appear this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for the defense, you will highlight the location of the alleged clue in the photograph for the court. Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see, and what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have, in a way that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue that heavily suggests the real reason the balloon exploded is... whatever this beam is.
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you notice there's a bright white light that appears to point directly on the balloon. Most likely a ray caught incidentally in the film. I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort. If you look with the magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright light really is.
Goodness, what is that? Undeniably some flash of light, yes.
Oh, golly, do you think it might be lightning?
But it couldn't have been a finer day. I believe we may be looking at fire. For the fire, heading straight for the balloon, like an arrow.
Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word, are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how that exactly did happen. What evidence? If such evidence exists, counsel, then for goodness sake present it, man.
Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon?
Take that!
This was found hidden at the foot of the small ornamental tree near the scene. Good lord, is that a crossbow? An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot with this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. Are you suggesting that crossbow was used deliberately?
Blimey, you're right. That streak of light, the photo looks just like an arrow, doesn't it?
Then the explosion of the balloon it was.
Very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow, igniting the hydrogen gas inside it.
No! The vampire's weakness. Order! Council, this is extraordinary whatever. If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have use a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge. Of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently.
Well, yeah, if someone had shot a gun on the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic.
But with a big explosion, that was a very big panic anyway, no?
I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued...
What? Wait a minute. What are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up into the sky after all? Or what?
My goodness me.
Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about.
I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along. What? Did I just hear correctly, Council? There's no going back now. The horse has bolted. Let's assume, as I said, the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage in the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At the moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you all agree it's entirely plausible that what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day. Yes, Good grief!
Objection!
This is ludicrous. What you describe is no science experiment. It's child's play. A contemptible display of staged magic. Both Mr. Shumps and I said the experiment was a scientific impossibility. In which case, this is the only way to explain what happened that day. In any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the crystal tower. If this instantaneous kinesis did take place, how do you explain that? If I may put a word, I'm a mathematic myself. Such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception. Juror number 3? All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Osman, and having their other men appear on stage to front the show as a body double. Ah, yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Osman might have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside would have been scattered to the four winds when it exploded. No one would ever embark such a risky venture. Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend on the mixture ratio. Juror number 4? Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases such as helium as well. Helium of its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered. The mixture ratio? Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns that would be unavoidable, but not to such extent as to render this whole obscene charade impossible. So everything that happened can be explained logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed to the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of the elaborate deception to make it appear the instantaneous kinesis had occurred.
Well, goodness me.
And if we accept that this is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with. In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant who was on stage in full view the entire time. This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Von Sachs can credibly maintain that Professor Harebrained is suspect now. Hold it! Harebrained, do not do the thing! Harebrained! Oh my god.
Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Professor?
But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please.
Sorry?
What's all this about, Mr. Harebrained?
I, Albert Harebrained, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Adi Osman. Yes, it was me with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver.
What are you doing? He is really screwing us over.
Defendant, explain this on a confession.
Professor Harebrained, what are you talking about?
It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis, precious machine. You stand there and claim it was all a trick and all elaborate prank, but what's your proof? No, you have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would be all over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it.
It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were the dupe, Professor, if you'll just let me...
Barak!
Yes?
I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say. I swear it. So please,
ensure the special blah 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 blah. Adhere to protect my creation. He's lost his case.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hollow chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend.
What?
And his upcoming attempt to clarify defense position in the light of accused confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, the Special Defense, whatever, Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. Oh, so that's what they're getting at. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed, and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved. Well, counsel, what is the defense official position on this matter?
what Professor Harebrained, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned?
Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You've been silent long enough. Is it talking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind?
Mr. Naruhodo! There's no escape here. I have to make a choice. What's impossible one? I have to give up something, but what? Defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact...
I don't know. A proper scientific invention. Conjuring trick.
Go!
No, I can't say it. My clients place faith in me. I can't just let him down. What must I give up on? It's not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what I can protect. Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Susato-san! But what are you... My first Susato takedown in 6 months! There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand. Which is working out not what I have been give up on, but what I could check. Professor Hairbrain! Yes? Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too. Yes, of course. And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Osmond. I think you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we both pursue now.
So, you finally open your eyes.
What?
And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say?
But, Barak! Lord Von Zykes. Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before. In truth, there is one thing, something I remember that's of relevance.
What?
On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow.
I beg your pardon?
Professor! Did the man have any distinguished features? What did he look like? Taller than me and thinner than me, with straight hair, straighter and wider than mine. Let me see, one less lens than me, to a monocle, rather stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help to possibly identify the man, you see. I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention.
What?
He built the machine? That's right. Mr. Osborne introduced him to me 1 year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Dreber.
Dreber? Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered.
Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. That means an abomination. Not the name any country wishes to hear either.
Who on earth is he?
I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific circles in connection with that name. There's talk of the flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascals after the government's research grant money. When magicians are in need of money, I have heard of them resorting to these underhanded tactics. Some acquaintances of mine with experience of such things have mentioned Enoch Dreber's name before. The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Dreber for you.
To be continued?
So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion.
Considering what we just heard about Dreber's character, I'm sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely.
Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted.
Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume.
I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen. But at the same time, I knew that if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect.
So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built? And the true nature of Mr. Dreber?
I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it. It's entirely possible that Mr. Osmond and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money. When I announced my invention to the crowd that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what happened. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore.
Wow, it's gonna be an hour-long episode. Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the special whatever?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry.
It would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord von Zykes, my lord. The court has newly made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Gather information about the man. If possible, I should like him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense?
Yes, my lord.
When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused.
I understand.
Good. In that case, the court is adjourned until tomorrow morning.
Like, comment, subscribe, Strikers XTV, and I'm signing out.
Oh, never mind. Take it back.
Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes?
I'm so sorry. I was wrong. You were right. I tricked you. You trusted me. I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry.
Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drebber was really up to, I mean? About what he was really constructing?
Naturally. That machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis, of all my hopes and dreams. I had completely faith in him.
Alright, in that case, I won't say any more. Now, sadly, the murder accusation against you still stands. So we must do as much investigating as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow.
Well, thank you for doing so much for me.
Just go to be continued.
I'm so sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo.
Arriving late?
Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I arrive.
Postcard? What postcard?
I hid it from you, Runo, so it would be a surprise. Well, did it work?
I was surprised, alright, especially when she threw me on the ground.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out.
Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion in the future.
Susie's train was late into London Victoria this morning, you see. But we made the coachman really whip the horses hard so she didn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. Having you at my side in court gives me the strength I need to win. So, I'm, delighted to see you back in London.
Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you.
Of course. So, what's brought you back? Did Professor Mikoto not protest?
Let's save all that conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends ever for the special occasion. Oh, Iris, how wonderful. I can't wait.
Now we get the real to be continued, right? Since Sato was back in London, it's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time.
But despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. Like, comment, subscribe. Chronicles ZXV, and I'm signing out.